All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you guys find this training useful, and um, please feel free to ask any questions that you guys have. We want this to be interactive and more of a conversation than me just going through slides and stuff. So that's not very fun usually for an hour. So if you guys can participate, that's super helpful. I also recommend if you are a school district that has had your facility assessment completed and you've had a report, either draft or final report delivered to you, to go ahead and open that up. That way you can follow along and have something in front of you that relates to your school district. All right, so my name is Adam Crine. I am the statewide school facility assessment program administrator for ODE. And my role is to work with the contractor in the school districts, make sure we're communicating information to you guys, setting up kickoff meetings and providing uh, a contact between the contractor and you guys, and making sure that the contractor is upholding their end of the contract. We also do site walks with the field staff every once in a while just to make sure that they're doing a good job. And of course, we want to provide any technical support we can for you guys. I have Sarah, a colleague of mine here too.
Hi, I'm Sarah Kirkpatrick, and I am the SASE Grant Coordinator, which is a grant that is paying for part of this contract. So Adam deals with the state dollars and I deal with the federal dollars. And I help Adam out with site visits, sending reports out to everyone, downloading them and reviewing them. So I can help you as well.
Thanks, sir. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so we're going to go through the facility condition assessment reports today. We did this last week, and we really didn't have time to get into ADA, so maybe we can set up another training for that if there's interest for the ADA reports. The FCA stands for Facility Condition Assessment, and essentially everyone on the call probably should have already had an assessment completed. If you have not, you may not be as familiar with the process or the program. Feel free to stay on the call, but it may be more beneficial if you join one later on after you've had the assessments completed. So we're going to go over the reports today. How do you get those reports from ODE? And how does this help you? How do these reports help you in your district, with maintenance planning and budgetary purposes and things like that? And then we want to answer any questions that you guys have. So you should have received an email from the ODE Facility Assessment email box. And there's a kind of a photo there of what it should have looked like. Similar, it has a check sheet that isn't necessary, but it's something if you want to use that to help you guide through the report and finding discrepancies or issues in there. So that link is individual to your school district. We're not sharing these reports with other schools or anyone really. You can access all your draft folders in there as they become available. The same process will be used for final reports. So if you have, if we finished up in your school district and we have some good draft reports, there's no issues, then we will send a similar email with a new folder that you can access all of your final facility condition assessment reports. These are PDF reports that you can download to your computer and share, internally within your school district. If there's people that need access to those folders, please let us know. We only have, we're only sending these to the facility manager the business manager and the superintendent. So if there's other staff within your school district that need access to that, just shoot us an email and we'll make sure they can get access. And yeah, districts, please remember that we're adding these as they become available. So I know there's been a lot of chatter about not having all the reports in there, and that's just a timing issue. So just keep checking back in your folders, and they should all be in there. All right, some terms to know that you'll see in the reports that you get. I want to go over these just so we have a level of understanding here. So expected useful life is the industry standard for life expectancy of a system. And so, that's the manufacturer's expected useful life, essentially. The effective age is the opinion of the contractor. So the field staff that are out there, they're going to look at a system and see how it's operating and running and potentially give their opinion on the effective age of that. There's areas in the state, or there's systems and components that are just used harder or more often, and so they have more wear and tear on them. However, we know that a lot of you guys are making systems last much farther past their expected useful life or effective age. So we have that level of an opinion because these are engineers and architects out in the field doing these field assessments. So we have that. The remaining useful life is the number of years until replacement. And so this could be based off of their opinion of the condition of that system, or it could just be based off of the manufacturer. So if you have a 30-year roof and it's 20 years old, they may just put in there that it has 10 years left. However, if you guys take really good care of it, it's in really great condition for whatever reason, it may have a longer remaining useful life. Deferred or current deficiencies. So you'll see in the report later on that we'll go through page by page here that has immediate and short-term repair needs. And those are probably the most critical that you guys are going to be looking at as far as prioritizing what you're going to replace or repair, budgetary needs for the immediate and short term, and things like that. So then we get into projected deficiencies. And these are assets whose replacement should be planned for in the future. So beyond 2 to 3 years would be projected deficiencies. The facility condition index, which we'll talk about how we calculate that. Essentially what this is a way for, it's another way for you guys to compare buildings across a school or even across your district. So each building has a facility condition index score, and the higher the percentage, the worse off the building is in as far as deferred maintenance. So you can rank your buildings and prioritize them in that manner. And essentially that is the cost of deficiencies, or the cost to repair the building, divided by the cost to replace the entire building. And then finally, Uniformat 2. So this is a standardized process for classifying systems in construction. And so what that allows us to do is create a list of system and building components and apply all of those other factors to remaining useful life, expected useful life, a cost factor is in there. And it essentially allows you to look at individual systems and components across your buildings to see what needs to be prioritized for maintenance and repair. Any questions? All right, another thing I want to talk about is cost estimates. I know there was concern earlier on during our pilot group, and we've had some communications from other school districts that they don't feel that the cost estimate that we're providing in these reports is high enough. And that's really hard to do on a statewide level of this scope and scale. So we have to consider how we can standardize these cost estimates in a way so that when we are looking at the needs in the state, we can compare them apples to apples. And so here's a few of the things that we did. We decided that this is a raw budget number. This is the very beginning phase of getting an idea of what it would cost to replace these systems. This isn't going to have major construction markups with design and things like that, where you are going to be looking at potential energy efficiencies or changing from electric to gas or things like that. So we're looking at this on a bigger scale. We did ask the contractor to use certain methods for coming up with these costs. So they use a combination of RS Means, CBRE, Whitestone, Marshall, and Swift. And those last two, CBRE and Marshall and Swift, are private firms that look up construction cost bids and things like that to come up with an average estimated cost to repair or replace. The cost should also include soft costs. So that's your permits and security, marketing, things like that that you need. Regional markups. There's a weighting factor all over the state where if you're in a rural area, it typically costs more to get services and supplies in those rural areas. So there is a markup added to those parts of the state. And we're also doing a like for like replacement. So if you have an electric water heater, we're going to replace it with an electric water heater. Even though you may, during your construction or design phase of replacing plumbing and things like that, you may want to go with gas for whatever reason. We can't do that again at this scope and scale. We need like for like replacement. And so again, there's going to be some variances in costs. What's not included? So again, this is not a contractor level cost estimate. There's different phases of a contractor cost estimate where you are, again, going through prioritizing what you want out of replacing these systems. And so you would see that when you go through that process. And there is no site costs or prep work included. So when you're looking at an entire building replacement cost, it's more of like an insurance replacement cost for the building. So it's not going to include if you need to purchase new land to build it. It's not going to include the infrastructure needed on the site prep work to build that building either. So things to consider when you're looking at these. Any questions there? All right, we're gonna, this is the last slide, and then we're gonna get into an actual report. So if you guys do have a FCA report available and you want to follow along with that after this slide, I think it would be beneficial for you. So here's how this report is broken out. There's an executive summary, which is the high-level explanation of the building, its makeup essentially, and the system's condition. And that's really for, we wanted the first couple of pages for you to be able to share with, principals or superintendents or maybe board members if they just want a high-level overview of the condition of those facilities or of that school. And you have a building chapters. The appendix A is a site plan, so high-level overview, like a Google map photo. Then the pre-survey questionnaire, if you filled that out. And that's really important because that gives us some background information on the maintenance that has occurred or repairs or even new additions to the buildings. Then we have the Appendix C, that's the component condition section. And that's going to have that remaining useful life, expected useful life, how much there is. So, linear foot or square foot, or maybe there's individual components like doors. And then finally, the replacement reserves, and that's going to be your table that shows the individual system, the remaining useful life, and the cost. The year the cost is going to be attributed to. So the year that it essentially expires will be in that replacement reserves. All right, so this is FCA down in Gresham or up in Gresham Barlow, West Orient Middle School. Pretty self-explanatory page here. And you have the table of contents. So you should see if you have a school with multiple buildings on that campus, you should see those listed out here in the table of contents. That if you don't see that, please let us know. There may be instances, excuse me, where it's a accessory building, like just a shed, like a tough shed, or maybe a greenhouse, potentially if it doesn't have a foundation and a power source. But if it's in the building collection, it's most likely should be on your list in your table of contents here. So please take a look at that. Let us know. And then here's that executive summary I was talking about. This is that high level general information of the building. So in this instance, the campus has 3 buildings on it. The address, when it was developed, it was built in 1925 and then renovated in 1998. And you'll notice later on that renovation can mean a couple different things. Because, if you pass a bond, you may renovate the old building, but also add new building space to maybe replace a modular building. I know Oregon's really big into modulars. They're cheap, easy to install and things. But in Gresham Barlow's instance, they not only repaired the 1925 building, but they built an addition on the campus. So yeah, so here's a campus makeup. So this information here is essentially the makeup of the buildings, architecturally and mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So you want to look through this and make sure it actually is accurate. All right, and then the next page is the facility condition index. So this is, again, critical in that it allows you to rank your school buildings across your entire district's portfolio of assets. And it allows the state as well to rank districts' buildings across the entire state. So we can compare, high schools, or we can just look at elementary schools and rank those based on an FCI. And so that just allows us to understand where the needs are in the state and have those conversations with legislators to be able to answer questions like that. Like I can see legislators asking, where is the need in the state? Which school districts need additional resources for their school facilities? So this is a mechanism for that. You can see there's a 0 to 5 range, and this is in new or well-maintained condition. So your newer facilities are going to have that or maintained, you maintain them very well. 5 to 10% is subject to wear, but is still in serviceable and functioning condition. 10 to 30% is the largest range. And so you'll see that later on in years like 5 and 10 on the next graph that this is a snapshot in time of your buildings. And so it's not going to update the FCI or the deferred maintenance based on things you have done over the 5-year period. So keep that in mind. But obviously, the older your building get, as systems and materials wear out, your FCI would theoretically increase. So anything over 30%, you can see there has reached the end of its useful or serviceable life and needs to be replaced. And so essentially what that means is it would be more advantageous to replace the entire building potentially than it would be to just start repairing it. All right, so with this, there's the three buildings. Looks like two educational facilities and a shop. Maybe that shop is educational, but here we get the cost per square foot. This has gone up $616, I believe, for middle school. Now, this is an older report. Then you have our square footage, which we get from the building collection. But also Bureau Veritas is taking measurements as well. So if you notice an issue, which I noticed this in the last report, this square footage is incorrect. It looks like whoever entered in this data just rounded to the nearest thousand. And so we would want to correct things like that because that impacts your replacement value. So you multiply the cost per square foot by the total square foot to get the replacement value. And then that is then divided by the repair costs. So this building one doesn't have any repair costs till year 5, and it still has a really good FCI. So it's in really good shape, essentially. However, if you look at the shop in 5 years, it's getting up into that 16% range, which has long, hard term wear and tear and near the end of its useful life. So if you sink some money into that shop, you'll extend the life of it for another, 20, 30 years. It's essentially what this table is showing you. Any questions there?
We have one question. Where
Yeah.
did you get the cost per square foot price?
So that came from the contractor. And in the previous slide, they use different methods for gathering that. So we'll get into that later on in this report too. There's a section that talks about costs and how they calculate that, but they're using RS means. They're using regional construction costs. They have two firms that they've worked with that's what the firms do. They calculate construction costs and things like that to come up with. And I talked about in the previous slides that we were going through that these are not actual contractor level cost estimates. This is more like a insurance replacement cost estimate. So this is just the initial raw budget figure that you would talk about to start prioritizing what you want to do in your school district. So you would meet and say, it looks like this building needs to be replaced. Maybe it has a 30% FCI, or it's just, you can visually see it's in disrepair. And so then you would meet with the contractor and start going through those different design phases. And that's where you're going to get your more accurate estimates, because you're going to want to include what your community's priorities are with the new building, or with replacing or new additions, things like that. It will be more accurate cost estimate. So on this report has some immediate needs. It says that the West Orient Middle School Building 1 has $7,500 in costs. So that's just, again, a high level. So you can show this information to like a principal or a board member or whomever, if they're just like curious of what immediate needs are. And then you would be able to match this 7,500 up with a specific system down in the appendix. So if you go clear down to your appendix and the costs, the replacement reserves, you'll see right here, I know that's small, but there's the cost year 2024, $7,500 to replace compressed air dryer process support replacement. It's got a 20-year lifespan, expected age is 20 years, so it needs to be replaced. And I know that these aren't the easiest things to navigate as a PDF. We can provide you with spreadsheets if you would prefer a spreadsheet with your building information in it, if that would be helpful. Lost my spot. Oops. All right, then the next section is plan types. Essentially what this is, it's rationale for recommending replacement or repair or a type of corrective action. And so this is essentially telling you why does this need to be replaced. And you may see more diversity on here with your buildings. It looks like for this school, they just have age but functional and life cycle renewal. And that is the majority of what you'll see for these plan types. And there's an explanation here of each one. You may have, if your building is older and doesn't have like a fire life safety type sprinkler system, you may see that there's some red in your donut chart there. And that is because we asked the contractor in year 5 to give you guys an estimate of what it may cost to install a sprinkler system in your schools. And that's, again, just informational. If that becomes a priority in your school district, then at least you'll have a ballpark of what that could cost. So you can answer those questions if it comes up. The rest of this is pretty straightforward. Aged but functional means, that it's aged past its useful life, but it's still currently functioning. Okay, so, and this is what a lot of your systems probably are, because again, you guys are making these components last a long time. Any questions there? And it looks like this is looking over time too. So this is over a 10-year period, all of the deferred maintenance issues that would come up. So in 10 years, this building, if Gresham Barlow spent $5 million on this building, they should have no deficiencies over time. All right, so then we get into the individual buildings within the report. It's in no particular order. Usually they just break them out here. So West Orient Middle School gives you the address and the GPS, when this was built, square footage and things like that. And then here's the high level overview of individual systems. So we break it out into a dozen or so different systems. And this is going to tell you the overall condition. So your, let's say you have a roof, for example, that says it's in fair condition. However, you may know that there's roof leaks in a couple spots. However, of a 32,000 square foot roof, those 2 leaks wouldn't necessarily bring the roof down to poor or failed condition if you could just repair those couple spots that are causing the problem. So the overall condition would be fair or good condition. So yeah, this is all of those systems broken out here. If you have maybe you have a cracked foundation or it's sloping off for some reason. You may have a comment here that says additional studies recommended, a structural engineer or something like that, and they'll include those costs and what the recommendation is in this report. All right, so here's the cost table breakout for that specific building. And you could see we noticed those immediate needs earlier on in that other page. There's a more detailed cost there that matches the table later on in the report. Again, you guys are most likely probably looking at immediate to 5-year needs. Since we're on a biennium budget cycle, every couple of years you're going to get new maintenance budget. And so what this does is allows you to have those conversations internally with your team about what the upcoming needs are and how do you want to prioritize it. Maybe you just want to look at the facade and the plumbing, or maybe HVAC is really important. So you're like, in 10 years, we're going to have to sink $1 million into our HVAC potentially. So how do we prioritize that and save to repair that system? Any questions or comments about this table? I know your business managers will probably like this table. It's helpful for them and it's helpful for you, facility maintenance staff, and giving you guys leverage to show this is an objective observation from a third party, to show the people within your school district that what your needs are for your facilities. Oh, right. This is a needs over time table, and it's just another way to look at FCI. And what that does is allows you to, again, just look at how the FCI can increase over time if there is no repairs done. And so the vertical blue lines you can see here are the reserve costs, and that's a year-by-year needs of the facility. The orange line forecasts what would happen if the FCI, if FCI over time, assuming that you put in 0 capital expenditures, and then the dollar amount allocated for each year are associated with the values along the y-axis. So you have your costs on the right side, and then the FCI is on the left side there. So here's that immediate need replacement. Just another way to show it. Shows a picture. It has a uniformat code on there, which is important because you can find that if you do Control F, you can find that later on in the cost summary table at the end in the appendix. Yeah, recommendation date, pretty self-explanatory. And then here's some overview photographs of that building. All right, same thing with this one. Here's another building. Again, same format, all of the systems and components. In this instance, it doesn't have any immediate needs, but it does have some 1 to 2 year needs with interiors. One of the questions in the last training was, what does interiors include? And we'll look at that in the tables in the appendix. It'll break it down into the same structure for the systems. So Similar to immediate needs, there's key findings. They're kind of one and the same. This one, it says you can replace it in 2026. It looks like it's in pretty poor shape, but it is just a sink laboratory, but rusted, poor maintenance. So there is a little description there, and again, the uniformat code if you want to look it up in the table. Yeah, this building was built in 1925, but it's obviously gone through some renovations, new interior carpeting, tiles, bright LED lighting, things like that. Boiler looks pretty nice. Here's the shop. Again, it only has a few systems broken out because it's essentially just a garage shop storage. So it doesn't have all of the other plumbing and things that a larger building would have. And so it brings up a point though that when you're looking through these, if there maybe is a bathroom in there that the contractor didn't notice, please let us know so we can fix that. Because obviously, if there's a bathroom with plumbing and toilets and sinks and things, that's going to bring the cost up. And also, we want to make sure that we have accurate, detailed information about those things. So please let us know. Yeah, I don't know if you recall in the when we were looking at the FCI table earlier, but this was the building that needed most likely just be replaced in a few years. And that's what this graph is showing as well. Our inflation rate has changed. We're using a 4% inflation rate based on DAS commercial construction costs. So I know there's arguments that that's higher to like 9%, but we have to use a standardized approach again since we're doing the entire state. They do a site summary as well, so you should be able to see what your parking lots, play structures, uh, um, sprinkler systems, different things like that, fencing, that'll all fall under site summary. You may also have some accessory buildings that are, again, like a tough shed that just stores like a lawnmower or equipment like that, maybe under the site summary as well. So it's going to have a different system list than the buildings, obviously. Um, but the same condition scores. Yeah, so here's a dugout that obviously wasn't in the building collection. It doesn't have a foundation or power source necessarily. So there's a kind of something as an example that would be under site. And so when you're looking at these systems and they all say fair or good or poor here um, on the site, for example, it looks like they ranked everything as fair condition, which is going to be most things. Here is what that condition rating is, what each one means. And so if you're unsure how they're doing that, or if you have a disagreement, maybe For example, the garage on this report, I don't remember if it said fair or poor, but they're also saying it needs to be replaced in a few years. So maybe it should be poor for most of those systems, and not fair or good. So if you do have issues with those, please let us know as well. There's a scope of what they're supposed to do. You want to read through that and fall asleep. Opinions of probable costs. So I know there was a question earlier about how do they develop these costs, and this paragraph here tells you. Essentially, these are cost estimates. It is a rough order of magnitude. Again, we're assessing 5,000 buildings across the entire state, and we tried to consider regionality, locations, materials, and things like that, but we also have to, again, standardize this in a way that we can compare buildings. They're using RS Means, CBR, Whitestone, Marshall, and Swift. They use past costs for similar properties, cost indexing. Again, the opinions of probable costs can only be construed as preliminary cost estimates. You have to consider the type of contractor you get. If you're getting a contractor off of Craigslist, as opposed to someone else, it may cost more. The quality of the project management. We saw up in Portland, I don't know if you guys saw the Oregonian, their project manager was costing them a lot of money, and they were like $1,500 a square foot for some of their new construction. The market conditions, subcontractor use, pricing of materials, the type of materials, these are all things that you'll have to factor in within your school district. That, again, we're doing a like-for-like replacement. This talks about the immediate needs. That's pretty self-explanatory. So if it says it immediately needs to be replaced, most likely does. And then here's the appendix. So the site plan, pre-survey questionnaire, if you filled it out, component condition report, and the replacement reserves. So the site plan is just that Google shot. They're outlining the perimeter of your school best they can. It looks like they did not fill out the pre-survey. So this is the component condition report. And this is going to break it down into more granular level. You guys saw on those other ones where the facade was all rated fair. The structure I thought was rated fair too, but it looks like on here it says it's in good condition. Here's a better one. So interiors. On the summary, the district executive summary, it said everything was fair for the interiors. But you can see on here, restrooms are in better condition than other parts of the building, like the doors, interior doors or ceilings, wall finishing, things like that. So again, you'll be able to see at a more granular level where there needs to be some attention. And then also it tells you what the component is, and then the quantity and the remaining useful life. So the slab on grade perimeter footing has 50 more years left. If you see anything in here that says like poor, or here, plumbing, mechanical room, supplemental components, compressed air, says not applicable. But it should say poor or failed right there. So That's another mistake by the contractor. Because that was one of their immediate needs, that it needs to be replaced. All right, any questions about this table? You can see how they break it down into buildings. So this is building 2. Again, it goes through like the executive level summary, starts with the structure, the facade, then it goes into the roofing and interiors. One of the questions in the last training is what types of interiors is it looking at? Well, it shows you right here in this list. Interior glazing, doors, there's steel doors in this building, suspended ceiling tiles, toilet partitions, wall finishing, flooring, carpet, etc. All right, and then we get to the costs. All right, so this is a part of the PDF that I wish was a little easier to read. It is much easier to do this in an Excel spreadsheet. But essentially what this table does is it takes all that information from the previous table and shows you when it needs to replace and a cost tied to it. So, if you're looking through here and you're looking at the next 5 years from 24 to 2028, sorry. You can look at what would need to be repaired over time. So your parking lots, pavement, asphalt, seals and stripping, courts, basketball courts, seal and strip. You got some flooring material. Here's a big ticket item, exterior glazing. And so we'll just go through this column here. So you can see as a uniformat code, it's on your exterior. Gives you a description of what the item is, its lifespan. So that's the industry standard lifespan or expected useful life of that system. The expected age. So again, that's going to be if they can get a shot of the manufacturer placard on the component to get the useful life, that will be on there. Otherwise, they'll use their estimated age. And then the remaining useful life of the system, the quantity, whether it's square foot, individual, it could say linear foot, which would be LF. The unit cost, then there's a markup cost, and then the total or the subtotal for that replacement. So, and it may be that I've seen some items, like here's one that needs to be replaced in 2029. What is that? Flooring, wood sports, refinish the flooring. So they're saying looks like every 10 years need to strip and resurface the floor of the gym, most likely. And it's about 50 grand. Any questions about this table? Is anybody on the call anymore? Did everybody leave? One of the things that was brought up to us was the differences. So it was Eugene, and they were looking at their report, and they saw that in this report, it's looking at what is this? HVAC, no? Here it is. Okay. So it has all this detail with the damper replacement, exhaust fans, ceiling fan, roof wall, centrifuge damper replacement. It has all these things for this HVAC, right? And then but theirs didn't have the electrical infrastructure needed to support this system. It didn't have the automatic transfer switch, the switchboard or distribution panel or electrical system wiring. It didn't have that to support the HVAC system. And so we're going to go back to the contractor and say, you guys missed this in the report, and they'll have to go back in and redo it. So please let us know if you're seeing those inconsistencies or if they're missing systems or components that make up your building, because it's really important that we have accurate reports out there. I think that's it.
Our chat
So
is quiet.
yeah, that's pretty typical. If anybody wants me to go over another section in more detail, or if you have any questions,
Brett
concerns,
has his hand raised.
yeah, Brett, go ahead.
Hey, Adam, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I just sent you an email. This was really helpful, and looking at our reports, I'll just use one of our examples. So Thurston High School, it's a 250,000 square foot high school or larger. The report only included 58,000 square feet of the building. My question is, and we have some questions around what they turned out. My question is, I sent you guys an email, but would you rather we reach out to like Jordan Turpin or Matt Anderson or something like that from Bureau Veritas before you guys get involved?
Um, we would prefer you go through us.
Okay, I sent you an email so you can check it out.
Perfect. Yeah. If you guys see issues in the reports, and I realize this is a ton of information and takes a lot of time for you guys to go through these reports, but it is really critical because, as Brett just brought up, people make mistakes. They're doing a lot of reports. And so Sarah and I are reviewing a handful of these for each district, but we can't review all of them either. So we need your help. And if you let us know of issues, we will make sure that that information makes its way to Matt and team over at Bureau Veritas so that they can correct that.
Okay, thank you. And then the other thing, I mean, obviously we have 21 buildings, so it's going to take us a while to get through all these.
Mhm.
Thankfully, we're on the front end of when they started these reports. I know that this is going to go a few more years as they continue making their way across the state.
Mhm.
So my point is, it's going to take us, several weeks probably to comprehensively go through all of these. You guys okay with that, knowing that it's just going to kind of continue on? Because like you, we definitely want to make sure this is accurate.
Mhm.
As you also know, I have board members reaching out directly to you, which kind of irritated me a little bit, as you saw. And they're getting anxious, but I just need to pump the brakes on them a little bit and say, hey, listen, we just got these. As a matter of fact, we don't have all of them yet. It's going to take us several weeks to go through these things.
Yeah.
So I'd rather you not, I'd rather board members, I'd rather you not look at these right now, because you're going to get a false sense of what reality is.
Right. Yeah, this is right now, these are living, breathing documents. And so once we finalize them, though,
Then
it's a snapshot in time. And so
cool.
it is important to have them accurate and make those changes now in the draft report. So as you go through them, if you knock out a couple
Yeah.
this week or next week, please send us those as you go through them, though. That way we can
Okay.
kind of start
That,
cycling through into the final stage.
yeah,
If you
that makes sense. I'm kind of wondering, do I want to take on the large high schools
yeah,
first, or do I want to knock out the smaller elementary schools just to get them done?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you
Um,
again. This is,
mhm.
I was really excited when I saw the reports, how comprehensive these are.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can, like I said, we can send some spreadsheets too, if that's helpful. We typically just add the spreadsheet to your draft folder, and that way it's another way to kind of filter through all of this information. So.
Yep. Cool.
And we realized it's going to take weeks to go through the reports.
No, I do not. I mean, this is an unbelievable amount of work.
Yeah. For those of you that may be unfamiliar with the process too, another way to use these reports is they do meet all the qualifications for the TAP program. So if you want to go out for a long range facility plan grant from the TAP program, I know Leanna has agreed to accept these reports as the facility condition assessment portion of that. And so that's one less thing that you guys will have to do, go out and hire a contractor and have them do it. And, there's out-of-pocket expense with that. So if you're going out for a bond, potentially in the next couple of years, it's, again, another reason to have these as accurate as possible for those purposes. And Sarah and I, we try to make ourselves available. We want to be approachable. Call us on the phone, shoot us an email, and ask for an in-person meeting or another Teams meeting with just your school district. We've met one-on-one with other school districts, either in person or via Teams or something like that. We're happy to do that and have a more intimate setting if you don't feel comfortable asking questions or sharing information about your schools. All right. Well, we're getting close to the hour. I'm going to let you guys go if there's no questions. Again, thank you for participating in this program and attending this training. So everybody take care.